Well, we got another huge response last night on a slightly different subject, and that's with regards to the performance of the media. Here's a flavour of these texts. If that had been Celtic who'd lost by that scoreline at home by a team of that quality, the manager would have been terrorised by the press. Not one question to Walter Smith from the written press. That proves he gets an easy time. Why didn't Chick ask Walter any hard questions? Kill yourselves, professional journalists. Would Tony Mowbray have got off to like... Let me finish.
Put some names to these.
Let me finish.
You're just making...
No.
There's no names to these people. Identify these people.
After that shambles.
Put the names to them, Kenny.
Give us a second, Chick. Give us a second. Give me a second.
People, I'm not listening to that. I'm not interested in you leading out things.
Anonymous
People who are having a go at my professional integrity, who can't identify themselves.
Give me a second.
Identify the people if you're going to read them out.
I'm going to finish these texts.
Well, no, that's not anything to do with that.
If that was Scotland playing against an equivalent international team, Chick would be calling for Burley's head.
Said who?
Why did not criticise his pal Walter?
Said who?
There's not time to go through all the names.
There's no names.
It's a disgrace how the media ridiculed George Burley after Norway. When it's Walter Smith, the media are too scared to say a word.
To put their names in
and
emails.
One here, absolutely shocked. Are the media that scared of Smith they can't ask the proper questions and get the answers the Rangers fans deserve after a performance like that? That was a worse display by the journalists and the team in the pitch.
No wonder
my Celtic pals feel the media are biased.
Who asked that question?
I'm not going through all the names. The names are there,
wait a minute.
Just a second.
Hang on. People want to have a go at me for not asking questions. They know who I am, but they ask questions of us, and they can't put their names in it. They can't put their names in it.
What happened? Just tell us what happened at the media conference last night.
When you tell me who's asking the questions, I'll tell you what happened.
I'll tell you something. I was sitting at home last night, and I thought it was a disgrace last night. I thought if I was a fan paying £40 to go and watch that, I'm driving home, I want to hear some hard questions.
Let me tell you something. I run 2 sports departments.
Right.
And I was appalled that none of my colleagues and none of the people who work with me asked a question.
Absolutely.
I know why mine didn't. They weren't there, as it turned out, because the machines weren't working and we're still trying to file. But there are a lot of people in that room who are not slow at coming forward, usually, and they should have asked questions. And as far as I'm aware, now I might be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, there was no press conference after that, so therefore
that was the one chance.
Their only opportunity.
Let's get.
I think at least Chick ask questions.
Billy, can I ask something to
Normally
yourself,
the broadcasters can't get in.
The suggestion here is from these fans that Walter Smith clearly gets an easier time for the media. Your thoughts?
From the media, I couldn't believe last night there was no questions asked, but I think...
Does he get an easier time? Let him answer. Does he get an easier time, Billy?
No, Kenny, you've had to let them have a go at me. Let's explain exactly what happened last night. We don't have individual access at Champions League games because of the contract. We have an all-in press conference. As is tradition, I try and elbow my way in to get the first few questions in, which is what I did last night. Eventually, after about 5 or 6 questions to Walter Smith, I thought I better shut up because of the other broadcasters, other written press guys who want to come in here. I finished, I waited for somebody else to come in. No one said a word. Walter Smith said, "Is that it?" Stood up and out the door before I could get back in with any more questions. So I'll be very grateful if the people, would put their names on these questions as they put them to me, because that's actually worse than they accusing the media of not doing their job, of them not identifying themselves.
What should he have been asked?
Secondly,
what should he have been asked?
I would ask them why he started with one up front. I would ask them why he didn't make any changes.
I'm sure he would have answered them as well. But,
he would
listen,
have.
You've got to put it down to the media on this one.
I would ask him if he was ashamed of the performance, what he was going to do about it.
He was asked if it was the worst performance he'd ever had.
How embarrassed he was about it. I would ask him all these questions. But, Kenny, can I just say, to go back to your original point, or one of the questions asked, can I say, I do believe Walter Smith gets an easier time than most other managers.
You do believe?
Yes, I do. And I'll tell you why that is. We discuss it frequently. It's no secret. We discuss it frequently on Monday night's Paper Talk. He gets an easier time because he's an accommodating manager. He's a good manager first and foremost, but he's accommodating, and you know he'll answer your questions. You know even when he's in a furious, foul mood, he'll answer your questions. He'll make himself available. There are other managers who will not even entertain the press.
Kenny knows
now,
that.
I'm not saying that Tony Mowbray's like that. Tony Mowbray is not getting a hard press. Tony Mowbray might get a hard press, but it will depend on how he puts his message across as to whether, you know, what the players are like, whether they're working and training, whether they're following instruction or whatever. But there are managers, and I would say to all of those people who are emailing and texting, if you are confronted with a manager or a player or a director who gives you deliberately a hard time and is intransigent and goes out of his way to make life extremely difficult and doesn't accommodate and doesn't compromise, why are you going to defend him when times are hard? You
So it's
wouldn't.
human
And
nature
neither
then? Is that
neither
what you're
would
saying?
they. No, but the first thing you've got to accept is that Walter Smith is a very good manager.
Does he get an easier time then, Chick, because of that,
Then whom?
than other managers?
Like who?
George Burley.
No.
I think he gets an easier time.
Because
than
he
George
get
Burley.
more criticism for what George Burley has done or not done. He deserves more criticism. Walter
I
Smith.
think he gets an
Walter
easier-
Smith. Walter
an
Smith.
easy answer to that for
Achievements.
me.
It's very difficult to criticise someone who's successful. Walter Smith played his part in 9 championships. We've gone through the track record of
check,
going
check,
to
I'll answer that
so,
for you.
So
he gets an easier time because he's had more success and failure. Simple as that.
Fine. But I mean,
Yeah, well, okay.
But if the thing is failing now and there are no obvious reasons for it, or the only obvious reason is the manager being poor, then yes, you criticise him. You would criticise
is
him,
it?
even Walter Smith. But Kenny, I don't believe that Walter Smith deserves to be dragged out, drawn and quartered, and thrown into the tower. I don't believe it because he's doing a very good job. Last night, I think he got it wrong. In fact, you could say that if you look at his team now, it has no physical presence at all. He could have had physical presence at no cost.
See, just on the media, the Jim, were Daily Record journalists in that room last night?
He just said no.
That's what he said.
No,
That's-
to my,
He said no.
as far as I-
other newspaper journalists were there. Is that
yes. Well, I wasn't in that room, but I imagine if it's like any other Champions League night or European night, you're all in, and the broadcasters
to
have
say
to
nothing
struggle.
of other radio stations.
Yeah, they have to struggle normally to get questions in. I was amazed and astonished and disappointed that no pressman asked a question last
Can
night.
I just say to just explain? Yeah, there were other questions to be asked of Walter Smith last night, and people, whatever you may think of me and my interview technique, I have been doing it for a long time. There's certain ways in certain situations you extract information, which is what we're trying to do. I'm not there to agree or disagree with Walter Smith. I'm there to extract answers. Now, yes, I would have gone back with other questions, but I felt after 5 or 6 questions, it's an all-in. The whole Scottish media interview, I'll let someone else, and anyone who's listened to Champions League press conferences post-match at Celtic Park and Ibrox over the years will understand that my style of interviewing in that particular environment, I would have gone back in. Nobody came back in. Walter Smith got up and left, understandably from his point of view, because he was let off the hook. I appreciate that, because no one else asked a question. And there are 1 or 2 questions that you both addressed that I would have, yes, put to Walter Smith. I'd put my 5 or 6 questions, got the answers.